My guest today is the owner of her own Luxe Shed and Summer House building company. She's also a speaker and a key organizer of the Content Marketing Academy conference in the UK. She's been featured by Huffington Post, and she's quickly becoming a notorious, and I'll get back to that later, a notorious figure in the world of the content marketing industry. And Cara, thank you so very much for joining me on Inbound Buzz.
No worries.
Awesome. So, Cara, before we get straight into it, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Oh, gosh, right. Okay. So I am the managing director of a timber building company in Scotland. We make the best sheds in the world. And it's my job to run that organisation, to grow that business, and to primarily look after my dad and Grant, who are my other directors. So that's my day job. That's what I do. I run the company. I come up with the crazy ideas of what we're going to do in the future, and put them into practice. And the other things I do is I raise beautiful children. I have a 16-year-old called Sophie. I have a 9-year-old called Patrick, and I have a new baby on the way. I also have my partner's wee lad, which is Spencer. And so we live in Scotland in Broughty Ferry, which is a coastal town. It's very beautiful. We have one annoying cat. That's our only pet. And we live a happy life here. I spend most of my time working hard. I've got a big focus on content marketing. It's ingrained into my business, and it comes part and parcel with my partner Chris, and I help him with his business, which is the Content Marketing Academy, as you can see behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
That's what I do.
So I want to go back to my reference to notorious, right? I want to jump straight into it, wake up everybody a little bit. I want to start with that post, right? Now, before I talk to you about that post, and I know what you know what I'm talking about, I want to share the results. So it's a LinkedIn post you wrote earlier this year. It had, as of today, 615 shares, almost 1,700 comments, and a lazy 9,800 likes on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this is something you do all the time. So at the time, your previous post had 79 views and 2 comments. Something closer to my sort of stats. And you generated at the time, and again, it'd be cool to know what you made out of it now. $100,000 in shed sales. Pray tell, what on earth did you write about, and why do you think it worked?
Okay, LinkedIn is not my platform for a start. So I spend a lot of time on Facebook. That's where my customers primarily are, and that's where I put a lot of my efforts into promoting and engaging with my audience. So LinkedIn for me was very much seen as a stiff corporate frame structure of a poorly programmed social site, and I didn't enjoy the way that it ran itself. I didn't enjoy the way that the whole platform worked, and I certainly didn't enjoy the banter or the lack of on the actual platform itself. I found that there was an abundance of stuck-up, male, pale and stale sort of demographic of type of business people on there with very close-minded opinions about very boring conversation. So when I was writing an article about the stresses and strains of home life and work life and how to combat working from home, it was something that I felt very passionate about, because it's something that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. At the time, I was a single mum with 2 children, and I'm trying to run a business and my house, and be a house person, doing the chores that go along with that, and making sure that children are fed and washed and cleaned. So I was talking about the mixture of that world versus the work world, and how it can become so impossible. And I did that with humour. So I ran through my daily process, which is just a chaotic spread of shouting at children, stumbling over dirty laundry, not getting any productive work done, dealing with household chores, and generally feeling unaccomplished at the end of the day. So it was first of all dealing with that, the problem, and then I came up with the solution, which is of course a beautiful garden office. Who happens to make them? I do. So that was the spin on it. Now, when I wrote the article, I wrote it just as I do, right, the majority of my content now. It's something that I've been exploring, and it's something that I was taught by the great gods of content marketing, but mostly focus on Anne Handley and Mark Schaefer from the Content Marketing Academy that went ahead the year before, so 2016, when they pair were on the stage and they were telling you about how to be more human and how to be bigger, braver and bolder. I've never had to be a professional in the sense of the word, which they like to tar me with. I've never had to conform. I don't bode well with establishment rules or authority. That's why I have my own business. So I've never ever felt the pressure of a corporate structure. So I don't play to their rules. So when it comes to swearing or the context of of the way I write, or the emotion that I share, or the honesty and the transparency that comes across in my writing, that's just me. And that's the way that I feel I get the best from writing out of. So I don't enjoy academic writing. I've done all that. I've got my honours degree in business management. I've pledged allegiance for the 4 years of absolute torturous hell. And I never ever want to write another academic piece ever again. I'm happy writing the way I am. And if you're true to your own voice and the way that you want to write, then it just comes so much more easy. So I wrote this piece in my own voice, and it turned out to be 600 words, not even, of absolute joyous pleasure for an abundance of people on LinkedIn who are screaming out to say this stuff and feel that they can't, that they know that they are under the same pressures. They're business people working at home trying to deal with this balance, and they're just like up in arms at the prospect that somebody can say it with them and say it loud and actually say it truthfully. So you might find that there's a huge amount of people telling me that I am the worst person in the world, I should be stoned to death and never allowed to speak ever again. But the abundance of messages that I've had personally, the DMs, if I could let people read my direct messages on LinkedIn, they far outweigh by at least 70% with the comments of support and people sharing their daily struggles with working from home, and their thanks and praise for me saying the truth. So that's it, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just so authentic there. And, you spoke about Anne Handley, content marketing legend, right? And she wrote an article about you. And
that's right.
She says, it's not that, companies should start cursing and swearing in their marketing, because, for a lot of those who actually do try, they're doing it disingenuously. They're doing it to provoke or in a cheap or forced way. So they're not being very authentic. But she also says, how you say something is as important as what you say. So the how, the delivery. So is there an answer for brands or businesses or whoever trying to find their how they communicate in their content and messaging?
Yeah, I'm lucky because what I'm selling is directly related to what I do, and how I do it. So being able to sell something that you do on a daily basis, and explain how you do that, is definitely going to communicate a lot faster, a lot quicker with your end audience who are buying from you, who are looking for the same results. So I think when we spoke to Simon Sinek down in London back in May, he went through my my tagline for the business, which is best sheds in the world, and he wasn't happy with that tagline. He said it needs to be something else, and you need to tell me exactly why you do what you do. So I told him that it's about my dad and Grant, and it's about providing them with a future where they don't have to work hard anymore. They can rest up, and I'll make sure that they're well looked after. And he said that's what you've got to sell to your customers. So he said, you sell to your customers what it is that you are doing. So I'm providing a resting place, a peace of mind for Dad and Grant. So my customers, they have hard workers in their life who they want to provide a resting place for, and they get that from their shed or their summer house or their garden room. That's their retreat, that's their resting place. So it's about getting to that other level. It can be any product or service, and it doesn't matter. It's about as you say, the how you do that, rather than coming up with sort of like a gimmicky sort of tactics or swearing just because other people are swearing. You know, it's not anything to do with that. It's primarily to do with how I can just speak truthfully about my own experiences, and that resonates with my customers. And as I say, I am lucky because of the situation that I'm in, that it just so happens I live the life of my customer. And so if I think for advice for other people who don't live the life of their customer, then they need to try it in order to be able to speak their language. 100% they need to. So whatever that might be, service or product based, doesn't matter.
So you took the whole why, and obviously Simon Sinek did probably one of the most legendary TED Talks on earth, and almost everyone now, I referenced that in the show notes as well, redpandas.com.au/EP72. So I'll reference that as well as anything you talk about today, how he talks about the why. So that's a really interesting way you've taken that. You've taken, and most marketers who are traditional marketers or who grew up in traditional marketing understand that, but your how is your why, if that makes sense. So your why is about, like providing for, your dad, as you say, and obviously like, giving people some sort of solace or comfort. So that came out in your messaging. So the why isn't just like a tagline you throw somewhere. It's embedded in the delivery of your content. That's such a good way to put it.
And throughout the company, everybody that works for Gillies and Mackay, they work for each other. It's not just a come to work, do your shift and then leave work. Everybody is fully invested in that to work for each other. We've got all our staff on holiday for this week. 2 of them are in just now making stock, and they've called 3 of the boys that are off on holiday 4 or 5 times. Now, there's no obligation for these guys to give help or advice or anything like that. One's in Tenerife, one's in Europe on holiday, and he's still giving into the company whilst he's on holiday, because that's just what they do. So we all do it for each other. And I think that as a census it pulls massively on the family entity of the business. And it's something that, again, we can relate with our customers with, how important family is. And that is, there's so many different angles that we can come at with that one message, because it's so ingrained in everything that we do.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that can be taken from a small company to a large company. There's companies I work with that say we have family values, but to actually show it, live it and breathe it, I absolutely love it. So let's go back a little bit, right? Let's talk about, content marketing, quote unquote content marketing. And I love this post you did as a wrap up for the CMA, as you can see behind you. And I want to ask you about that in a second as well, the CMA conference. Yeah. And you spoke about, the shit, maybe traditional textbook definition of content marketing by people who think they know, but they don't. And I think all of us, when we fell into content marketing or understood, oh crap, we need to do this thing, we fell into these decisions, these definitions rather. So, the crappy definition aside, what is the real definition in your mind of content marketing? So if you wanted people to walk away from this interview and said, okay, I understand from Cara that this is the definition of content marketing, what would that be?
Oh God, right. Okay, now you're testing me. For me, it's purely about how you communicate with your customers. So we've spoken about it just there, but it is exactly that. It's being able to think and act and behave exactly like they are, and their moment of pain or need, and be able to solve that problem or pain that they have. So answering those emotions inside that your customer. So if I use any of my examples of my content that I produce, it comes down to really getting the thought in my head of exactly how they say it. So it's not like the conversation that I would have with a customer face to face is exactly what I put on paper, and is exactly how they will search on Google for me. So it's entirely down to the communication aspect and being able to be their friend virtually within a matter of the first opening line of any blog or first opening words of any video that you produce. For me, that's my platforms, blog and video. But it's simple. It doesn't need to be complex. There's nothing difficult there. It's acting, speaking, and behaving exactly like your customer to get them the right answer as quickly as possible.
I had a question for much later, but I want to bring it up now because it's so perfect and it unpacks a little bit what you're talking about. And what I do really like about your content, it really does. So, we've featured, Marcus Sheridan's They Ask You Answer book philosophy, right? Of just a good or call it good content marketing, understanding those pain points like you talk about. But what I love about your content, you actually like are answering those questions. Like you've got stuff, for example, videos and articles on how much does a garden office cost? The best type of roofing for a pet shed. How long will an expensive shed last? So my question is, how do you research? You say like a lot of these are the conversations you would have. So do you do any other research? How do you come up with these questions, and how do you not run out after a while?
Yeah. So I asked my customers. So I've been doing this job since I was 16, and dealing with sales, dealing with customers, that particular job. I've done the other side, which is the construction side, before that and throughout it. But from the age of 16, I've been answering questions day in, day out by customers, and I will never, ever run out of any questions to answer. It's impossible. There's always new ones. And whether it's doing a Marcus Sheridan Big Five content matrix, where you come up with like 100, 200 questions in like an hour's graph, then that's fine. That you can do that. Or whether it's sending out an email to my list and asking them further questions, and I get, the last time I did that, I got 150 replies. That's an extra 150 videos, or whether it's making use of all my employees. So I've got 2 office admin and I've got my on-site deliverers, and asking them, what questions have you been asked today? There's loads of ways to get the inspiration that you need for the ask you answer. It's not complicated. And your first port of call is what questions have you been asked today, or what questions have your sales team been asked today if you've got a larger organization. So it's very straightforward for me. I find it easy to do. The research that goes into it. There's only 5 million people in Scotland. It's a small market that I dominate at the moment. I'm looking forward to sort of branching out into England and Europe. So it's very easy to do my market research in Scotland. Construction shed companies don't even know the internet exists, so I don't have direct competition where content marketing is concerned. But it's not, it's only a matter of time before they catch on eventually. So I need to make sure that gap is massive. And so I keep on top of the game, and I think you'll see in the one that I did today, the how much does your garden office cost? I did a Facebook Live on that today. And the basics are that I can write an article like that, and I can include my competitors, as you would see in a traditional sense, they would be my competitors. I'd give them as an example for their price and their structure. I'd sing their praises, especially for a particularly nice company. And I can do all of that because that's exactly the ethos that Marcus talks about. And that's exactly what I mean by behaving and acting and speaking like your customer. Your customer isn't your customer until they buy from you. So until that point, you treat them as a friend. So you give them all the information that they need for them to make their own decision. So the research that goes into that is fairly straightforward. You behave like a customer. You Google it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The idea of asking, if you're a small company, it's even easier in a way. If you're a bigger company, you touched on this, and Marcus Sheridan obviously talks about this as well, doing those workshops and getting those, hackathons where you get like 150 questions. And I've also recently been thinking about bigger brands, because I think for them, it's a bigger challenge. And yeah. I don't know what it is, but like maybe, one of the ideas that I had, like a lot of bigger brands use like, maybe not Slack, but maybe Slack's maybe Skype for Business or maybe Yammer or something, even having a thread. And like, because it's one thing for the marketer to go, oh yeah, but I ask people and they don't come back with questions, but you just create a thread. And as those questions come, people just throw them in there. It's like, I think no one has an excuse really when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about just processes in place to make sure that you can document them properly. That's common sense. That's being clever. Just get a system in place where people can pop in, because you'll get a question, it'll go in one ear and it'll go out the other, and you'll completely forget about it. So if you have a system in place where you can record this as and when it happens for everybody on your team, everybody in your organization, then that's exactly what you need to do. But the fundamental is that it needs to be a priority. If you don't make it a priority, nobody's going to do it. So yeah, if you're looking for questions, then you need to express how important that is to get your team on board.
Okay, so that's the strategic approach you take, which is simple, when good marketing should be simple. On the tactics side, on the day-to-day side of the operational side of content, I'm guessing you run a lean marketing team, right? It's probably yourself and okay, perfect, right? Perfect.
Yeah, I outsource, but in the business side of things, it's me. Yeah,
you're the ops of the marketing and the content side. So what do you say to people who say they don't have time, and how do you manage your time to consistently get content out?
Okay, so first of all, you do have time. That's the first thing. I think anyone that says that they don't have time just basically don't think it's important enough to do. Of course you have time. You just got to make it important. So I dedicate, it started out, I dedicated something like 4 hours a week or something like that at the very beginning. And then it got more and more and more. And last year I dedicated to my timetable of how I worked to 20 hours a week. And now I probably do something between 20 and 30 hours a week. There's not a time that goes by throughout my day where I'm not either thinking about it or actioning something because of it. And the reason that I do that is because it works. They don't understand, the people that either say they don't have time for it, and even if they do it and they don't do it properly, it's just that is a waste of time. Do it properly and give it the amount of time that it needs, because it does work. There's no other way to do business as far as I'm concerned. It's the only way. And I think I've said that, since day one, really. As soon as I realised what we were talking about here, going way back to the very beginning, when I arrived at the masterclass and I was sitting in that room and I was like, I've just finished a business degree, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've aced marketing. I've got all the P's in there. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I sat down there, and Chris started coming away with all this stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck's he talking about? So this isn't what I was taught. This isn't what I've got, my qualifications for. And it's like, this is mental. And it just blew me away. And I was like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And I'm 100% committed there and then in that room. And I've never looked back, because it's done nothing but wonders for my business. Monetary wise, of course, but not just that. It actually gave me a purpose. At the time when I went into that room, I was selling sheds. And the aim of my game was, I will get the business to a point, and then I'll just fuck off and do whatever else I like. I'll go and actually make some serious money. So instead, what it's done is, it's content marketing is not just, I always knew we had a good product, but what it's done for me is made me believe in the product. And it's made me want our product not just to be good, but be the best that it could possibly ever be. And that's all I've focused on ever since. So it's not just a way to do marketing, it's a way to do business. And people, when they get it, they just get it. And there are hundreds and thousands of people that will think that they know, and they're the most dangerous ones, the ones that think they know, but they haven't a clue. And then there's the ones that don't know, and they're the ones that are probably going to get it eventually.
And I mean, it adds value to your brand and what you do. You're not the only person who makes sheds in your region. Like, I think I read somewhere you charge on average like 3 times as much, because there's inherent value in what you're selling.
That's right. Yeah.
It's just crazy. I mean, I didn't have this question planned, but do you think, like, I've always had at the back of my mind a bit of an issue with traditional education.
Yeah.
And I find, and I don't know, I've had debate. Some people agree with me. Some people have kind of pushed back and said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Moby." But I find marketers. So I want to ask sort of, I guess, marketers for a second. The ones that have been classically trained by universities, and then they get into these traditional roles, and they go into these big corporate companies, like Dulux Paint or somewhere really, really huge. I find the longer they go through that process, no offense to any of them, but the dumber they are. And I say that respectfully, in a way to hopefully shake some people. So what do you think about the institution of marketing? Are there gaps? Is it churning out dumber marketers? Just, spitball for me. What do you think about that subject?
I think the traditional academic structure, as it is, the process of how we teach our children is on borrowed time. And if it's not, then it needs to be, because the way that we educate is wrong. I am a dyslexic. I struggled with dyslexia. I was diagnosed maybe when I was about 7 or 8 at primary school. And the education system that I had throughout primary and my high school years was very poor. There was no additional support. There was no really any understanding, which is, quite desperate considering I'm only actually 30. It would be understandable for my mum's era maybe, but not necessarily for mine. So the support and structure for education wasn't good enough. College wasn't much better. University did support a lot better for me. But regardless, the way that they deliver education as it is now, when I watch my teenage daughter and my son grow through the education system, yeah, you're right, they are dumbing. And they have been for years. And you can go into conspiracy theory here. You can say that it's purposeful to suppress, the normal citizens of the world, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Or you can do what you can do to make it better. So you can take responsibility for your own children and ensure that they are doing their own self-directed learning, and they are teaching themselves the important things that they will need to be successful in later life. And that's a lot to do with technology and the advances that we have, in the modern world, because everything that's been taught academically in a marketing sense the traditional framework that they have for that is so out of date. There's principles there that will never die. But the way that they do it, and the importance that they lay on tactics and structure, and the way that they can manipulate a result, and the way that they treat a customer is definitely not the way that most humans, regardless of whether they're in marketing or business, would naturally feel like they would want to behave. That's a taught way of behaving. And I've written about it. All marketers are full of shit, is the article, and I mean that expressively. I've been taught outside education, in business, through networking, what I should be doing with my marketing, how I should be catching leads, how I should be treating the numbers, how I can deceive, how I can trick people into buying, how I can hassle them, pressure them, cold call them, all that nonsense. And no, it's not right. It's not. It's a tactic. It's nothing that's ever going to last, and it's not something that's going to get you known for being good.
Yeah, nothing beats answering those questions, understanding their pain points, being authentic. Yeah, it instills confidence in you and your brand as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think where we can learn from is like the pioneers, like the Ann Handleys and the Mark Schaefers and the Marcus Sheridans, and the great stuff that the CMA does as well. So I mean, the CMA itself, like I've been following it now for a couple of years, and at first sort of I just saw it in social media and whatever. It just seems to be getting bigger and bigger, which is fantastic. This question itself, I know, could be a podcast episode itself, but what are maybe one of the two key things that you took away or really stuck with you this year at CMA?
Oh goodness! Well, it was a completely different experience for me this year. I was very, very hands-on, very in with the organisation, with me, Chris, and Vicky, and so it was a different year. I loved my lightning speakers. They were sensational. So they're ordinary business owners. We had an all-women lightning speaker panel this year, and they did 15-minute slots of their speaking. I did my own as well, but I helped the girls get to the place where they needed to be, so they would feel confident on stage. They've all done Marcus's World Class Communications, so they know the practice of question, story, result, challenge whilst you're on stage. That's how you structure, and they know how to engage an audience. But it was just the fear of anticipation for them. So it was getting over their nerves and making sure that they were getting the best out of what they were wanting to say. So they girls were sensational. I absolutely was blown away by them. They were just fantastic. That was Sharon Menzies, who has a HR company, and she was talking about why she was dabbling with content marketing for months and months and months. And it wasn't until she realized that she really needed her business to work, because she had a disabled son that relied on her to be a full-time mum as well, that it came to light that she had to make content marketing work. And her story was so touching, people crying, all the rest of it. Eva, she's a youpreneur as well, and she was talking about community and how there's no such thing as a self-made entrepreneur, and how she uses the communities that she's involved in to her full advantage, that make her the better businesswoman that she wants to be. Karen was talking about niche marketing, and finding your niche, and understanding that by narrowing that down, it opens up so much more opportunity. And Pam was talking about never having to deal with shitty customers ever again. By using content marketing, getting the best customers you could ever possibly imagine, and only ever having to deal with them. So there was such a broad range of how content had opened their eyes to a whole new world of business. And I have to, reinstate that point over and over again. Content marketing isn't just about marketing. It's entirely about business. It's the foundations what make organizations great. So that is the academy. That's what we teach. It's a learning organization, teaching the principles of that. It then flows into everything that you do in business. So when you come to the CMA Live, everybody in that room is speaking your language. So you're instantly in a place where you're safe and you're excited, and you cannot wait for the fun to happen, because it's such a lovely, lovely place to be. Everyone there wants everybody else to be amazing. Everybody wants everybody else to do well. They want to support. They want to help. There's just an amazing community feel that they're all working for the same goal, and that's to be as good as they possibly can be. So when you think about your goals, ambitions in life, it's never against somebody else for a CMA member. It's always against them in 10 years' time. So that's the ethos, that's how people behave, and that's why it is such an important event to attend as a CMA member, and as anybody who's thinking about it, because you get a proper, real understanding of the possibilities. So lightning speakers, sensational. The actual event itself, the atmospheric need to be in that room is sensational. There's just no way to describe it other than actually going and being there.
Absolutely. And I'll link that in the show notes as well for people to check out. So just, I had a question on video, just coming down to my last couple of questions. You've been, from what I can estimate, it seems like, because I saw a video, I think it was last year, and you said you were doing it for 9 months or so. You've been doing it for about 18, 20 months. Is that correct? Video?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Implementing it. So taking a look back now, what do you think that's done for your business? And I mean, it's interesting. I almost feel like videos for you are easier than writing articles. So what has that done for you?
I specifically focused on video because folk kept saying I was quite good at it. So I was like, right, I'll set myself a challenge. I'll do 100 videos before CMA Live, and I'll get them published, edited and published and out there. And that was my plan. That's what I wanted to do. So I did that. And now, just now, after the all the hype and everything that moved, the pre-sales for the following year and going on holiday, now I'm really getting down to it. It's the start of our 90-day challenge. So I've got 3 months to optimize the fuck out of all that content that I've made. So at the moment, nothing from the 100 videos is happening. The ones that I did before that, so there was probably maybe 25 before, that they've done brilliant. They are my should I insulate my summer house is it's got like thousands of views on it, but it comes up obviously as the first on Google, but not only that, Google's answer as well, which is always a great place to be.
The video comes up and the page that it's
the video so I've got it on my website, I've got it on Shared TV, so it's embedded in my website as well as being on YouTube, but the video itself comes up as Google's answer to should you insulate your summer house. Now that happens on maybe 5 or 6 other videos, and it's great. That's a fantastic thing to happen. That means that you know that it's working, because the traffic that it generates by coming up on that stage on Google, the traffic that it then generates on your website, and you're watching all the downloads of the price lists and the how long they stay on your website, how many pages they're reading. It's great. It's fantastic. It means it's completely worth it. And the sales themselves, they reflect themselves. And I'm really, really looking forward to monitoring and understanding the return on me producing those 100 videos in the first 6 months of this year. By the time we get to December, and by the time I've finished optimizing, I'll be doing like Facebook ads and things like that as well behind them, to boost them. And I really can't wait to see what it's going to be like in December, getting to the other 6 month mark after they've been optimized and just finding out how well they've worked for me. It's going to be a brilliant case study. I can't wait to share the results on that.
I think you've said something that is actually quite telling and important, because you've done those videos, you've done the 100 videos. I think most people would say, yeah, cool, I've done them. But you just made a really, really good point there. Like, you're going to make a concentrated effort now to go back and optimize those. And that's where a lot of people stop, isn't it? You know, so I'm so glad you brought that up. How do you? Yeah, that's it. And I'm done. And
that's it. Job's done.
Truth be told, I've doing podcasting 18 or 20 months or whatever it is. I don't think I've really optimized mine as well. Some of them I've started to turn into videos. But just quickly, when you say you're going to optimize, the bank of that video, what are you going to do? What are you actually going to do to optimize them?
Yeah. So what happens is, right, so everything is native on YouTube. And I've made copies of the videos and they are now native on Facebook. So it's just about distributing them at the right times, not to overload of stuff. Now, what I find really is the Facebook video, the Facebook Live videos, they're not doing what I wanted them to do initially. YouTube very much still has the power there, basically. If you're going to spend time on video, YouTube's where to do it. What I'm finding is that my audience are definitely watching from a Google search and then onto YouTube. So what I'm doing is I'm taking them from from YouTube and embedding them on my website. So they've got the same track, they've got the same sort of code line. So it's the video that's on YouTube, but it's actually in my website. And then I transcribe everything that's on that video into written text. And I put on related content and links to my other content within that text. And I put my subscription in there as well. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing the transcribes of all the videos, 100 videos, onto my website. And then what I do from there is I take their measurements through my Google Analytics at that point, just as they go live, and then see how fast I can get them to excel themselves. And by doing that, I will promote them through Meet Edgar. So that's the platform that I use for my social. And so I will schedule them on particular days for different subjects. And then I will promote them on Facebook, because that's where my wider audience are, through Facebook ads. And I'll use, I'll use targets such as people that have visited my website in the last 30 days. I'll use the Facebook pixel to track all of that. I'll use I'll invite them to do the sign up, because that's initially what I want them to do, because then that means that I can use my email campaign off the back of all this content to get them to buy. So that's how I'm optimizing the videos as they are. It's getting people interested on the platform that they find easiest to use, and then inviting them to join me on a platform that I find easiest to control, which is email. So that's how it works. And the only way to do that, again, is by answering the questions that they actually want the answers to, rather than just shoving offers right in their pus when they're not interested.
Cara, that answer itself, you could run a freaking presentation on. That was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I can't wait to listen back and actually jot down all those points that you said. So for everyone who listened, that was so good. You spoke about the ideal page, taking the video, embedding it, transcribing it, taking that video, uploading it natively to Facebook. Promoting that. Absolutely. That was amazing, Cara. And also what I really, really liked as well, one of my favorite parts of that answer was you said Facebook Live isn't working as much. YouTube is still where it's at. I've felt that myself. I actually haven't even mentioned it on my podcast yet, and I think I'll mention it maybe next week. But I've felt that, there's always a flavor of the month. And, Facebook Live. And yeah, it's cool. It's good and it works, to a point. But let's not forget good old YouTube, right? Like the second biggest search engine on earth. So I'm glad you've said that, because it does allow you to control the conversation, doesn't it?
It does. My main point about Facebook Live is exactly what it's for. So Facebook Live is live there in the now. So if you have an audience of 1,000 people that are going to religiously watch you at 3 p.m. every day on Facebook Live, it's perfect. That's it. But that's all it's worth. It's not evergreen. Nobody's going back through your Facebook Lives finding ones that they want to watch. They tend to be quite long as well. So they're not ideal for promoting people aren't going to be hanging around. It was there and then. It was in context of that day, at that time, at that subject matter. So that's exactly what Facebook Live is for. It's not evergreen content, and it's not going to, going to work for you after you've used it for its primary purpose of being live. And that's what YouTube does do. YouTube provides you with an evergreen search content where people can go back time and time again and start from the very beginning and be taught a lesson from your very first video and watch them all the way through. And you have no idea when the people join that journey. And that's what YouTube's for. Facebook Live's never going to be YouTube, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, it is good for people who, like you say, who have that audience, but also like it kind of, anyone who's kind of scared to be on video, in a way, sometimes Facebook Live isn't bad because like jumping to the deep end, build that, just go and talk and kind of spitball. And if you use it strategically and promote it, then maybe, but definitely use that content on YouTube as well. So that's on point, I think. Cara, thank you.
It's very similar to Snapchat and Instagram stories. That's the type of sense I have with Facebook Live. It's like a longer version of your Snapchat or or Instagram story. That's kind of how it feels to me. You go on, you tell them how your day is, you say a point, you get to a lesson, and you end it with the conclusion, job done, and then that's it. It's forgotten. That it was there and then done. But it's not as valuable as producing a proper video on YouTube. No.
Awesome. Cara, thank you so very, very much. Particularly you braving morning sickness as well, which should be called 24-hour sickness.
Yes,
so you're a trooper. I don't know how you do everything.
Thank you. It's right there.
Don't worry, I won't keep you for anything. I was going to ask if there was anything else you wanted to say or anything, but I think you've...
No, it's been great to speak to you, Moby. Are we meeting up when we come over in September? Going to Boston in September?
100%. 100%.
Excellent.
Yeah, I know by that time your videos will be optimized and you'll be super famous and whatnot. So don't ignore me.
That's good.
But I'm going to definitely find you and Chris. Also, you book me and I'll speak to your people. I'll speak to your people.
Yeah.
Cara, thank you so very much.
That's great.
It's very inspiring to watch what you're doing, and keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, Moby.